Yes, please. If you don't. And today we'll talk about, physical education.
You say when? Now?
I'm recording. Recording began. It's going.
Of all the domains of human consciousness, the physical is the one most completely governed by method, order, discipline, process. The lack of plasticity and receptivity in matter has to be replaced by a detailed organization that is both precise and comprehensive. In this organization, one must not forget the interdependence and interpenetration of all the domains of the being. However, even a mental or vital impulse to express itself physically must submit to an exact process. That is why all education of the body, if it is to be effective, must be rigorous and detailed, far-sighted and methodical. This will be translated into habits. The body is a being of habits, but these habits should be controlled and disciplined while remaining flexible enough to adapt themselves to circumstances and to the needs of the growth and development of the being. All education of the body should begin at birth and continue throughout life. It is never too soon to begin, nor too late to continue. Physical education has three principal aspects. 1, control and discipline of the functioning of the body. 2, an integral, methodical, and harmonious development of all parts and movements of the body. And 3, correction of any defects and deformities.
Yeah. Do you want to share your views? We'll start with you, Julian.
Yes, I was thinking about this because of our, we've been fortunate to be reading a series including Synthesis of Yoga and Letters on Yoga and Life Divine. And Sri Aurobindo's constantly trying to work against the momentum in Indian culture, which defined the world as illusion, and the kind of self-mortification in the Christian tradition, the hair shirt, this idea that we have to get out of this reality into a divine bliss or a moksha or liberation and leave all this behind. And so Sri Aurobindo and Mother are constantly working against this huge momentum that we now find to some extent reflected in Christian fundamentalism, which also says people should enter the rapture, and that the ecological disaster which is present on the planet really doesn't matter, because you'll be saved and go to heaven and not worry about all that, because through your devotion and identification with Christ, you will be saved. So this saving or this liberation, the balance really is stewardship. And where does stewardship start but with the microcosm, with our own bodies, and to become conscious. And as the Sri Aurobindo ashram emphasized, that there was dance, there was physical education. One of the most profound things I remember from my first trip was before the evening meditation to see the oldest sadhaks, including Nolini and Nirod, and doing exercises in the ashram playground. And I thought, how extraordinary. And Mother playing tennis, and these girls boxing in shorts, which also, considering the modesty in Indian culture, where to have young women in shorts and blouses boxing, It was just an extraordinary tribute to the radical emphasis on helping to make the body conscious. And I really admire, even if I were just looking completely outside and not as someone who holds this philosophy so dear, I would think, what a revolutionary and what a revolutionary practice this was in the context of India.
You're muted.
Okay. So how do you see in our present education system, this country we have a lot of sports, physical activity, but how do we kind of help them to connect with themselves, along with not just playing for competition or just to build a body, but
I don't think we do it well.
Yeah.
Just running everywhere from the hyper competitiveness of high school sports, which are all about domination, running to the youngest where people are saying, well, we don't have time for recess. We have to get ready for a test. I was thinking as you were talking, Julian, about the public culture in this country and how unsystematic and helter-skelter it is. If you look at advertisement, for example, it's all about diet, so you could look good, but it has nothing to do with the kind of beauty that is in this idea about physical education. They ought to be about exercise, which is all about getting out there on your Peloton and just sweating to death. That's all just embedded in America's culture. I take hope from the parallel development of interest in things like yoga and Tai Chi, which are much more disciplined and much more along the lines that you were talking about. I also like your idea of stewardship. I think that we have to think of ourselves not just as stewards of the earth, but our own bodies, and that should keep us balanced. I would come back to beauty later, but I think I like your examples, and I would like very much if we could shift our public presentation of ourselves to something more like what you're talking about. Now someone else can talk.
Chaitu, you want to share from your own experience, and also seeing your child, and how do we kind of from a young age, nurture them to see the beauty and about the food, and and also, their own nurturing their own intuition. Oh, you're muted, Chaitu.
Sorry. In the ashram, as Julian very beautifully put it, I mean, it's really very striking and inspiring to see the way everything is organized, the importance that is given to physical education. To me, I always like whenever when I speak to somebody who doesn't know about the ashram and the system of education, the integral education bit, like, most of it is, lot of it in the ashram influence is almost 50% is physical education. And people do not, they see it more like sport. What is there? Okay, we also do sport here. Everybody does sport, like we do games. But the variety of things that are given, that you do there, and again, it is not to show the spread of things that we are exposed to. It is the development of just not the physical being, which is taught to be, to balance, to everything, to have a fit and healthy body, to create an energetic, person. But apart from that, there's so many other things that you build as an individual by doing all this. You learn to develop your willpower, determination, perseverance. And I always feel you want to really see a person, understand a person. You just go and watch them play something in a team. You can always, a person, the way they play in a game or any sport, brings out a lot of their personality, what kind of an individual they are. So the physical education is not just about just the strength and having great endurance from the physical point of view, but it is also a development of the entire being. You learn to interact with people, and from that point of view, it is an overall development when you're doing. So that is what I try to tell people, that it is not just about any sport that we're all exposed, but it is what you learn through it, as an individual. Now, coming to my son, I try to, he's just 4, so I try to expose him to different things. I try to put him in gymnastics for a short while, just for the fun of it. So I think what I found it not very, when you put into it as a very systematic and rigorous thing, like, Andrea very beautifully put, you just hear the culture of physical exercise is like you just sweat it out and you're just going for exercise. But that's not the idea. There's something behind it, which is much more important, I feel. So that's something that struck me also at an early age. When you put them in any of these things, they are more focused. The focus is sometimes it is wrong, or it is different. They're just looking at, getting them to finish it or do it, but that's really not important. It's like how they enjoy, they develop their skills, and how they interact with others, how they find out their own creative ways of doing, because that's what is going to develop not just the physical fitness bit, but also mentally and in every other aspect. So now that he's at home, I see that he doesn't get a chance because of the pandemic to go out and do as much as he used to do earlier. He creates his own things, like he creates his own slide, and he does, and I feel he does everything that he's been exposed to in his own creative way, which is for me, it's an eye-opener. It's great to watch him do that, because I wouldn't have thought of it myself. And so it's wonderful to see from a child's point of view. I always feel for children, you expose them to different things and give them a little that freedom and monitor them for their safety. And then they just know what is the right thing and how to do it. That's what I have been experiencing with my son, at least. Yeah. Thank you.
I love what you said about your son. My grandson is just a little older than your son. And he's very energetic. And being at home, what they did, we bought him something called a pickler, which is a tent-like thing built with bars of wood.
Right.
And I've seen videos of him climbing up and sliding down. It is, it's the joy that people take in physical motion. One little story, and then I'll let somebody else talk. One of the things that our symphony orchestra has done is provide some outdoor concerts at the home of one of the choir director's house. That has been, we've all sat on lawn chairs out in the street, on lawns, and these people have come to play chamber music for us once a week for 10 weeks. Well, not only is it delightful just to do that, because the music is lovely, but 2 weeks in a row now, I've looked down the street and seen 2 kids, about, I'm gonna say 7 and 9 perhaps, who are just dancing. They're dancing in the street, and they're dancing to the music and twirling and pirouetting. It was just fantastic. And I thought, there's absolutely no coercion there. There's nothing but the joy of motion, which I think is what gets lost in some of the more regimented PE classes, which all of us endured when we were in middle school. So I like to just make sure we remember that part of what he's getting at is that you're trying to increase the joy you have in your life, not just because it's good habits. Habits are good. Yeah.
Just for an example, if I could add. So one thing that my son did that I saw was he created his own obstacle course the other day. So he put, he put cushions everywhere and different levels of stools, and he crosses from one point to the other on those obstacle course. And I have not created that. It was completely his invention. Or then he takes the futon, which we have, the foldable futon when a guest comes. He puts it on the steps and he uses it as a slide. So he doesn't climb down. He puts the futon and he rolls down. So those kind of things he has invented for himself, which is amazing, because in the gymnastics course, that's what they teach you. They teach you tumbling and obstacle course, but now he's created his own thing. So
now, when my daughter was probably 8 or 9, we had a stairwell in our house in Chicago that had 2 different directions. She and her pals would get the sleeping bag and just slide down the stairs. I'm thinking, okay. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Thank you, Andrea. Marco, you want to share?
Yeah, interesting examples, because in fact, what you mentioned were more the spontaneous activities, not the activities that are imposed by a system, a school, or the parents, or whoever, but the physical activity that sooner or later comes from within or from the body itself. Because I mean, also as adults, we feel after a while that we, at least I think everyone, after a while when you sit in front of a monitor too long, then I have to walk to do something. And this activity of listening to one's own body, yeah, which doesn't mean to listen to the, well, in integral yoga we would say the lower vital, lower physical appetites. I don't know how to translate it in a more secular manner, but you know, these vital instincts, that's not the point. There's something else in our body consciousness that feels, that knows even better than physicians and doctors what really our body needs. And I think in children you can see this better, because they are not still not so conditioned by the mind, which says you must do this exercise at that time and that hour in this way, and so, and then eat this or eat that. They still listen to their body consciousness, and they know it, not rationally. They cannot rationalize it, verbalize it perhaps, but there is inwardly something that knows what the body really needs, and they, if they are allowed to, and if they can, they execute this. And that's something that we have lost, I think, in our society. This listening to our body, because it's not, I think it's not only about physical movement. You already cited diet, also diets, but I think there everybody, everyone and everybody, body in a literal sense, needs some sort of food and some quantity of food at a specific time in a specific manner, and nobody is equal to one. We are not equal also physically in this sense. There are things that I can't eat, but they are considered officially from the from official science, diet science, as something very healthy, and I can't eat it. My body says no. And also these things, I think, or self-healing, a healing, listening to one's own illnesses is something. This is not so apparent now from this citation here, but Sri Aurobindo and Mother frequently also speak about this aspect of physical education. But well, yes, so dancing, I wanted to dance. I was not allowed because males, the boys don't dance, only girls should dance. Yeah, there was also this. Now it's perhaps not so, but at my times there was still this idea that boys don't dance. Also, these are sort of things that perhaps we should reconsider, and because this is also physical education of for adults, for how we should think about this physical education. Yeah, which has been actually downgraded in our society generally, because we have this idea now we must become computer scientists, mathematicians, we should learn computer program, technology, science, all this bookish knowledge, and the physical aspect, or also the artistic aspect, by the way, has been put in a second place, I think, and that's bad. I think it's not a good thing. But well, that's what comes to my mind about this topic.
Thank you, Marco. And I think all are interdependent, interconnected, our emotions, body, mind, and all that. And just,
There is this growing body of evidence, study about the role of gratitude in physical health. You know, if you maintain an attitude that says, I am grateful for something today, it really enhances your ability to fight off disease, to maintain good relationships. It's all, as you say, Lakshmi, interconnected. So,
and I think um, just adding value to, even if they're organized sports or dance, but from a young age, kind of helping them to recognize and um, the interconnectedness, and to recognize their own self, listening to the body and listening to their intuition. Because when even they're playing competitive sports, but just when they form this habit of listening to their intuition, so they're, playing um, in a way that's not harmful to others. So, and also from a young age, helping them to, as adults, form good habits and making their choices. Yeah. Thank you. Anybody wants to add anything?
I'm thinking about how the idea of balance has been lost in our headlong rush for competitiveness in sports. Then, we're looking at two ends of a spectrum. One is natural, joyous, and spontaneous, and the other is rigorous. Get out there, be disciplined, practice your sport or your instrument many, many hours a day. There doesn't seem to be any impulse to sort of try to bring those two closer together and allow us to balance it, rather than say you have to push ourselves so hard that we are injured, or we are so spontaneous we can't figure out how to make it reliably and systematically helpful to us. So can't always rely on there being a concert out in the yard.
I've always been proud that Oroville has been instrumental in bringing ultimate frisbee to India, and have, for almost every year, we're winning the sportsmanship, or the kind of playing it in the spirit of the game. So there are competitive aspects, and certainly there were records and relay races and swimming and so on in the ashram sports. But it's only America that could take something like yoga and degrade it. Well, now there's also yoga competitions in India, but to bring style and fashion and all of these other things into yoga. I also think of this title, "Mind of the Cells," that was a condensation of the agenda that put together, and that there is this bodily yoga that's kind of at the forefront, because this whole vision of Shri Aurobindo and Mother is meant to bring light into the cells of our body. And I love the fact that awareness through the body takes some of the new games movement, which came out of kind of hippies in California. I think of the example of, there's one where you have a large circle of people next to each other, and they get very close, and then the entire circle sits down, so everyone's sitting in everybody else's lap. And it's one of those things that kind of embodies, there's some things we can only do collectively, and that we have to get out of this mindset. It became trivialized when Hillary Clinton used "it takes a village to raise a child," but some things are dependent on cooperation. And I think there's a lot that is misunderstood in evolutionary biology, that does not understand that it is community that builds health, and community that maintains health. And it's not the survival of the fittest. It is the interrelationship of complex systems that allows things to go on. And as we see insect populations crash, and, you know, the canary in the coal mine of planet Earth, it's giving that same warning that we have to understand cooperation, collaboration, interpenetrating systems that make life possible, and that we're in such a fragile place. And I think ATV and new games are ways to really meditate on those things, bring it home and personal.
Thank you, Julian. Anybody has anything to add?
Just wanted to add to what Andrea had said about balance. I think it's a very important thing in terms of physical education. If I take my own personal experience, I was one who used to always push myself very hard, even if if I had an injured ankle or something like that, but I would never give up. At the cost of it, I would continue doing. And I always had very nice coaches who would explain to me that it's not important, which was very nice. They never pushed me for it. So I was lucky to not have someone to push me to do it. Instead, they used to always pull me back and say, no, you give it some time, let it rest, let it heal, and then you can do better. But I was a very poor listener then. I don't think I ever listened enough, because at the cost of my own injuries, I did a lot of it. It's later now that when I look back, I realize, and I was known for it, that, always with a bandage, but I will not miss a competition. That was the kind of thing. That was how I was. But now I realize how much I've learned from it, that really it's not important to do it, but you really have to listen to your body. And physical education is, also about listening to you. Intuitively, you have to understand every part of your body. It's not just like your vital will to do it and to, complete it. That's not important at all. But I guess everybody learns it in their own way, pushes themselves in their own way. And the other side, I had the other friends who would always be like, I wish I had an injury. I don't want to do swimming today. It would be the other extreme. So it was very interesting. So the balance is something which is so important. They hated sports. They never wanted to do sports. And they would always envy me that you're so lucky. You don't have to do today. You can just go. We had a separate, it used in the ashram, they call it the group, the physical activities, and it's organized in different age groups. So if if there is some kind of an injury, you go to a rehab group where you can do some, you do some physical therapy and get it better, heal and come back. So they would always be, you're so lucky you're in that group, we want to go there. But I used to feel the other way around. So you can see the balance in both sides. It's like lopsided. Neither side is the right thing. So I think we all learn through it, by doing it. Sometimes you have to delve in it to slowly grow out of it and learn the balance. Yeah, that's a very important point that I have learned with my own personal experience.
Thank you, Chaitanya.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody has anything?
Maybe about the balance. What comes to my mind is just the last no, not the last, one of the sentences here. Because what struck me was where, who was his mother or Sri Aurobindo, I don't know, where it is said, but these habits should be controlled and disciplined. When I hear this, I think, okay, yeah, it's about discipline, control. The idea of control, the word already is for me, makes me tremble a bit. And then, while remaining flexible enough to adapt themselves to circumstances and to the needs of the growth and development of the being. So you see, you have two apparently different. The mind would say, but this is a contradiction. It's not a contradiction. You can put together control and discipline and yet follow your inner intimation, how can you say, your inner strength and your soul, so to speak. And that's something that we see or one thing or the other thing, or the rules and discipline, or do whatever we want. Here, with the physical education seems to be, at least according to this citation, the right place where to learn to put these two things together, which are complementary, not exclusive. And here it's about balance.
I think you're exactly right, Marco. I think our experience, each of our experiences of trying to learn how that works is what it means to grow into a real human being. You can't know it when you're young. You just don't have enough experience. You have to wait until you've done that road to excess part that William Blake talks about. It says, you know, you can't know what enough is until you find out what too much is. So I think the notion of flexibility is built into the process of evolution. If an organism is not flexible, it eventually is going to come up against some circumstances it can't survive. So it's not just survival of the fittest, it's survival of the fittest to reproduce. And you can't get to that point until you say, as you say, figure out what it means to be flexible within a guideline. So thoughtful.
I think as adults, it's kind of providing the resources and environment for the children from a young age. It's easier for them to adapt because they're more flexible. Yeah. So thank you all.
Thank you, Lakshmi. Thank you, Lakshmi.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Good talk.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you all. Bye-bye.
On 21st, the third Wednesday.
See you then.
Okay.
Bye.